This is Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt of the Institute of Lutheran Theology. I want to talk to you today about Aristotle's views on causality, hylomorphism, that's a term I'll explain, and then of course his views on ethics and teleology, which I'll also explain. Whereas we talk about cause normally as that, there we go, that which produces something else. A produces B. I put an arrow up. Don't think of it necessarily as an if-then statement. But if A produces B or brings it about that B obtains, if B wouldn't obtain without A, we have a notion of causality. And of course, I remember in graduate school I had an entire seminar on the nature of cause, and metaphysics seminar on the nature of cause. So I've always been interested in it. And I thought, it was a fairly in-depth seminar. Of course, then I find out later that we just barely scratched the surface, of course, and all the things we can say about cause. And I'm still very interested in causality. Aristotle, of course, has a different view of cause. He uses the word cause slightly differently than we do. He does include what we're more or less talking about under the category of efficient cause, but he has a fourfold causal schema. You have a final cause, you have an efficient cause, you have a formal cause, and you have a material cause. And this is a metaphysical schema that explains what the thing is and how the thing is that the thing is. Now, I'm going to use an example here. Imagine that I am making a statue, and I'm going to make a statue of, someone important, Immanuel Kant. So I'm a sculptor, and I'm going to do Immanuel Kant. And you bring into me, Carl, you set here a big slab of marble. And I'm thinking to myself, this marble could be a bust of Kant. And I throw my eyes heavenward thinking about this, right? Well, the marble that you've brought here is going to be formed by me. And let us say that I do bring about the bust of Kant out of the marble. The material cause of the bust of Kant that is now beautifully sculpted, the material cause would be the marble, right? The formal cause is that shape that is chipped into the marble. It is the formal cause of the thing. The material cause is the stuff. The formal cause is the form in the thing that makes the stuff a particular kind of stuff, if you will. The efficient cause is my chipping of the marble, right? I chip the marble, and I'm bringing about a bust of Kant out of this marble. I'm bringing something precious, a bust of Kant, out of this worthless marble here, see? And then I have a final cause going. I have in my mind, if you will, I have a design of what I want to bring about. I'm thinking about the bust of Kant that I want to bring forth, and I couldn't really explain, if we came across a bust of Kant, we really couldn't explain it without all of those things, according to Aristotle. Some guy had to have a plan. I'm thinking here of the Demiurge and the Timaeus, if you remember former lectures. You have to have a blueprint, if you will, some form in mind, a final cause, and then you chip with your hands and you collapse the materiality of the marble into a certain formal shape. Now, what we could put down here is we could put the words potentiality and actuality, and we could say that the efficient cause acting in accordance with the certain purpose the final cause, what it is for us, has collapsed the potential into the actual. Because the marble could have been a bust of someone else, like Obama, right? John Kerry. Could have a bust of John Kerry. I suppose somebody would like that, maybe. Rand Paul set a record yesterday for filibustering, a modern record, I guess. So anyway, it could have been many things, but it got collapsed into a bust of Kant. So that meant a particular kind of chipping in accordance with a particular plan. The final cause, then, is the purpose or goal of the compound of form and matter. The statue was created for the purpose of honoring Kant. Does that make sense to the most casual listener? Now, Aristotle says that all four causes are both necessary and sufficient, right, for explanatory adequacy. We can't completely explain this bust of Kant without these things. Now, the slide says he blurs the line between extensional causes and intentional explanations. Yes, he does, but you would need to know what these words mean. In an intentional explanation, we give a causal explanation for the thing. We're doing it in the realm of meaning. I'm going to be very general here. And we can talk about the causal relevancy of certain conditions for something else. We can give an explanation of why a thing is by appeal to certain laws. To give a true causal explanation of the thing, we move outside of the realm kind of meaning here, and we want to refer to discrete causal events, if you will, or causal features of reality. So a question that philosophers might have is, are there really causes? Or what does it mean to say that a thing is a cause of another thing? And of course, David Hume, living from 1711 to 1776, but then he died, said that the cause here should be analyzed in terms of a constant condition, or a constant conjunction of events. A causes B if and only if A and B are constantly conjoined. A is temporally prior to B, and A and B are contiguous. And events like A, like I said, constantly conjoined, are constantly conjoined with events like B. So he's trying to say that there aren't really little bits of stuff out there that are causal stuff. We're just use the word cause to cover regularities. Other philosophers think otherwise on those deals. All right, now we're going to talk about hylomorphism. And this is an exciting topic. One can see, you turn on any TV channel these days and they're talking about hylomorphism. You notice this? All the new reality shows are about hylomorphism. They did Price is Right out here in this town of Brookings. I don't know if you guys know that. Price is Right was out here. And, I guess Jerry Springer gave an impromptu lecture on hylomorphism. But at any rate, hylomorphism claims that all objects are comprised of matter and form, right? Hylomorphism is just Greek. Hylo means matter. Morphism means shape or form. So it's a combination of form and matter. In change, something must stay the same. There has to be some stuff that changes. So we have the stuff, the material stuff, staying the same, and then the form changing. Form is that which makes matter, which is potentially something, actually something, right? Because lying in the bust, or lying in the marble, there is the potential to be a bust of Kant or a bust of Obama. But the form here that is actualized, it actualizes towards a bust of Kant because of a particular efficient cause. If another efficient cause had been operating upon the matter, it would have been actualized into a bust of Obama. Being philosophers, we're always happy things get actualized into busts of Kant. Right? Matter is that which persists, and for some range of possibilities, matter is that which exists for some range of possibilities. That's what I want to say. So, we could say that this bust, this matter, this marble, has a range of possibilities, one being a bust of Kant and one being a bust of Obama. But after it's a bust of Kant, let's say, that is matter for further shape. It no longer can be a bust of Obama after it's a bust of Kant. Now it can be something else, like maybe a bird. You cut off part of the head and it can be a bird. But you see, this is how Aristotle does it. Matter gets actualized, and that becomes matter for a future actualization, and that becomes matter for a future actualization. See, so potentiality gets actualized in particular ways. Now that actuality is itself in potential to be actualized in various ways, which is in itself in potential to be actualized in various ways. Okay. What this hylomorphism does is it allows for both a substantial and accidental change, which I'll talk about in the next lecture. Without matter, nothing would be the same, and so there would be nothing there to take on another form. Now, with this, I want you to now remember the fourfold causal schema, because we're going to come back to it when we talk about ethics. But I want to have us think about teleology for a moment. If you don't know the word, think to yourself such thoughts as, can one be a theologian without teleology? Teleology has to do with purpose. It's the logos about telos. Telos is purpose or end. It is a logic or a discourse about the end of things or the purpose of things. Now, what we have with Aristotle is a teleological system in nature without a designing deity. Right? Now, remember Plato, he had the demiurge and the timaeus, and the forms were being impressed through the agency of the demiurge on the receptacle. We all remember this. So that's very teleological, and it has a transcendent design aspect to all of that. That's why early Christian theologians said, hey, Plato's got Genesis a little bit right there, right? It's a dim anticipation or a dim remembrance. Most of the apologists said it's a dim remembrance of Genesis. However, of course, we could get into the whole question when Genesis 1 was written, which may not have been very much sooner than the Timaeus, depending upon your views here. But at any rate, because that's the priestly source, right? Okay, what Aristotle says is that nothing can move from potentiality into actuality without an efficient cause, right? You know that. That is an actually operative agent. All efficient causes are actual. Nothing potential can bring about a collapse of the potential into actuality. You have to have an actual thing to bring about this collapse. But that this efficient causality itself requires a final cause of what it is forness. Because efficient causes just aren't blind. He doesn't connect final causes to intentional design, but he finds final causes everywhere. Now, when I was a kid, I always thought, gee, wouldn't it be fun to be a physicist? I thought that'd be fun. I never was that interested in toads and frogs, they seem very messy. But if you could have a few particles somewhere and accelerate them in certain ways, now that's a lot of fun, right? But Aristotle was more on the life side of things. And I don't know about you guys, but I go out, being a person that was interested in physics, And I try to look at the world in the way that a physicist looks at things, and boy, I have all kinds of aporii, right? Aporii, remember? I have all kinds of puzzlement. What am I puzzled about? Well, I have little furry things gathering little stuff over here and making little nests and having little furry things come about with little feathers on them, and then that one gives a worm to that other one. I mean, this stuff is really hard to explain in terms of an efficient causal explanation. Well, we can come up with evolution. Wow. Yeah, we can do that. But that's kind of like what you come up with when you think there can't be any purpose, right? If you have a metaphysical system that says that, well, there really can't be any purpose, then you have to come up with some sort of underlying explanation, quasi-mechanistic in character, that allows for teleonomic, that is, laws that look like purposeful laws, right? You have to come up with that. And we do that quite well. Aristotle said, well, I look around me in nature, I've done a lot of exploration of this, and it looks to me like there's purpose in nature. I mean, it's just there. We can't explain why a giraffe does what it does without purpose. We can't explain why a honeybee does what it does without purpose. It's just apparent in the physical realm. Or even the little sunflowers. Notice they always turn to the east in the morning and the west at night. Right? I mean, the world is full of purpose if you can see it. Aristotle saw it. And so he thought that purpose had to be part of any true explanation of things. So the little acorn has a final cause. It has a purpose to become an oak tree. Why are there acorns? Well, they're seeds to become oaks, right? Why are there fetuses? Now, you're saying, well, Christians always come up with bad views on abortion, and, they like little fetuses to live, and that's kind of crazy. Well, I mean, it really depends a lot on your metaphysics, right? If you believe that a little fetus isn't a mind, and you think that everything that happens is at the level of mind, and you give rights to a mind, you're going to come out with quite a different view than if you were an Aristotelian, a consistent Aristotelian. And you say that, well, a fetus is to a human being as a acorn is to an oak. It's in potential to having full rights, and therefore it should participate in some of those rights even as it becomes that. Aristotle argues that there is order in regularity in nature. He talks about human teeth. Of course, in the tradition, John Mill and others would talk about the eye. The eye was always something that couldn't be explained mechanistically. He says that this order and regularity would either have to come about by chance or for the sake of something else. But, of course, to come about by chance is no explanation. So if you're going to explain it, then it has to come about for the sake of something else. And for the sake of something else is the final cause of a thing. This is all tied into a principle we have in philosophy called the principle of sufficient reason. Aristotle seems to hold that we experience teleology in nature, and that our way of speaking itself seems to ramify that experience. We experience a teleology, and we talk that way, don't we? I asked Carl why he went down to the airport, and he says, I went down to pick up Bill. And why did you do that? Well, I believe that Bill was at the airport, and I desired to pick Bill up. There's an explanation. David over here says, no, I want to give a causal explanation of this that does not make illicit, it does not make any allusion to illicit entities that are teleological in nature, like beliefs and desires and that kind of thing. So you cast it in terms of Carl's neural flow, right? And certain antecedent conditioning and certain inputs into his system. And this causes it to be the case that he's propelled down there and picks up Bill at a particular time. Now, I just want to tell you that trying to explain things without so-called folk psychological ascriptions in terms of beliefs and desires, very difficult. Would be very difficult to explain what we do in mechanistic terms, totally in view of efficient causal terms. Okay, final words here. We have in Aristotle a view of ethics, and his ethics really tracks nicely with his fourfold causal schema. Okay, because we have down here material cause, and at the level of material cause, this is a bit like the realm of our potentiality. I mean, if you think about it, we are in potential to doing a lot of particular acts. However, so this would be like material cause. We do particular acts, don't we? Let's say every time I see an ear of corn, I eat it. I just, started doing that the other day. Well, if I do that enough, it doesn't take long to train yourself, right? Your character is one that comes about through each and every one of your actions. I see an ear of corn, I eat it, and I see another one, I eat it, and then pretty soon, every time I see an ear of corn, I eat it. My character has now been developed into an eating corn being, right? Now this can be with regard to any act, and I'll let you fill in the blanks. Right? It's always those things that maybe seem bad for us to do. We do it once, and then we do it again, and we do it again, and pretty soon it's pretty easy to do those things, right? So our character is an actualization out of our potentiality because of the chipping away of the marble of our potentiality into a form of the bust of Kant, which is now analogous to a good man. Right? So Aristotle says that in ethics, what we should do is we should do those things that a good man might do. And in doing those things a good man might do, we bring about a good character. And what is a good action? Well, that's the action done by a good man in accordance with his good character. Kind of circularity there. Now, what is the final end of all this action where we do this and that and have character? It's our happiness for Aristotle. But I don't want you to think, oh, happiness is a feeling. Happiness is not a feeling for Aristotle. If you think that happiness is a feeling, you must go run many laps. That's what we always had to do when I was in school. If we were bad, we had to go run laps, okay? So if you think that happiness is a feeling, you have to run laps, because happiness is not a feeling for Aristotle. Happiness is the cultivation of your intellectual and moral virtues. Now, in order to cultivate your intellectual and moral virtues, you got to have time to do it, so you got to have some land. So property owners can be happy in ways that non-property owners can't. Plus, it's helpful to be a male. A woman can't really be happy because she doesn't have the requisite time to cultivate her intellectual and moral virtues. She has to mess with kids and all that kind of stuff. So you can see how Aristotle gets criticized by the so-called feminist critique. Happiness is objective and found in practicing moderation and developing one's intellectual and moral virtues. I like to think about happiness as a type of total human flourishing. Okay? To do a good act for Aristotle is to do an act in accordance with a particular character. Aristotle is a virtue ethicist that claims we must establish character through the cultivation of our habits. A character is just our dispositions to behave, our habits of our heart, right? It's our character. One needs to practice. One needs to practice. If you want to be very good at playing scales on the piano in major sixths, that's really kind of hard to do, but you can do them on 12 keys. You can do that. It takes a lot of practice. That's what your life is for Aristotle. You have to practice to have a character. One needs to practice in a in order to train oneself in the cultivation of these dispositions. Acquiring of these dispositions to behave, these habits in our hearts, this character is the loftiest end of human being. And it all is very nicely makes sense in accordance with the fourfold causal schema of Aristotle. Now, of course, when one thinks about this deeply, one says, this is a little different view than what we might think in the Christian tradition. Because, of course, if we are sinful and unclean and cannot free ourselves and we have sinned against God in thought, word, and deed, how in the heck are we going to train ourselves by the practice of certain virtues, by the practice of certain actions, to actually have good virtues? And, of course, this is all part of Luther's critique of Aristotle, why he was so down on Aristotle. People get this wrong. He was not down on Aristotle because of Aristotle's logic. He didn't dislike Aristotle because of Aristotle's rhetoric. He didn't dislike Aristotle because of Aristotle's semantics. He disliked Aristotle basically because of Aristotle's ethics. In order to get a good tree, you got to have good fruit. And each fruit that falls makes the tree good for Aristotle, right? And then finally, when you get a good tree, then you'll have good fruit. But the tree has to be made. This is not the Christian understanding. Here, if we believe in the happy exchange between Christ and us, we are gifted goodness, extra nos from the outside, and then out of that gift, out of the gift of the good tree flows the good fruit. See? So Aristotle's ethics fly right counter to Christian anthropology, according to Luther. Why? Well, because Aristotle's ethics starts in man. It doesn't start in God. Okay. Well, we'll come back next time to a little deeper discussion of Aristotle's categories. So we'll be right back at the Institute of Lutheran Theology's Christ School of Theology. Thank you.